This is out of the flour in Mom's, and she puts the the gum in, keeps the weevil out, the peppermint gum, double mint gum. Uh, but I'm just gonna set those aside because I just had to dig those out, and I'm tired of digging them out. But I need 2 cups of flour for this. Oh yeah, I need to put the uh, oil in. Well, there's the first cup of flour. Let's get the oil. I'm making another batch of the sourdough because the first 2 batches weren't as good as I like. They still tasted good. They just didn't raise as much as I'd like. And I'm actually, it feels so much like bread to me that I'm making bread. Today I'm actually going to make mini loaves. My mom has these little loaf pans, and I'm gonna do, I figure half a dozen of them should do a batch based on the size of that loaf I made, that loaf that I made last night. There's the first cup of flour. Oh, found more gum. There's the second cup of flour. Need a teaspoon of salt. I have to get Mom in here and have her tell the little story about the salt in the food. Kind of a cute little story that gives you a little better idea of why you need salt in your food. I need 3 tablespoons of white or granulated sugar. Remember that optionally, to make this faster, you can put in a tablespoon of baking powder. I'm not going to do that myself because I want this to be a true sourdough, which is actually why I'm having problems with the time it's taking to rise and everything, why it's taken me 3 batches to get one that looked right. But I'm going to mix this up and then knead it, and maybe while I'm doing that, Mom will tell this tale of the salt in your food. She maybe won't. She just gave me a
I haven't thought about it for a long time.
She's going to think about it and maybe do it for us. It's kind of like low salt diets. They don't want you adding salt. However, if you take it out completely, if you're cooking, it has definite adverse effects. You want that teaspoon of salt in the bread. And if Mom will remember it, the story, which is...
I can tell the story.
She's going to come around over here on my other side of the camera, lean against the counter while I get this kneaded, mixed and kneaded. Maybe set a timer so I can...
Long ago, are you pushing me around?
Just wanted you to be close to the microphone instead of behind it.
Okay. Long ago, in a land far away, there was a king who had two beautiful daughters. And he was getting old and decided he needed to know which of the princesses to leave the kingdom to. And so he asked them to tell him how much they meant to him. He gave them an afternoon to think about it. And the one daughter, who, by the way, was more conscious of being a princess, said, "Oh, you are the apple of my eye." And the king said, "Oh, that sounds wonderful." But the younger daughter, who liked to spend time with nature and the animals, and really didn't care about whether she was a princess or not, told her father, "You're like the salt in my food." He says, "Salt in your food? That doesn't sound so glamorous." And so he banished her and made the other princess, who said he was the apple of her eye, his eye, yes, her eye, the heir apparent. Well, the princess who was banished found love with a neighboring monarch, and it turned out that somehow her father, the king, actually lived longer, and his daughter, who became the heir apparent, had banished him. And his daughter, who was now the queen of another kingdom, brought him in, and he didn't recognize her at all, but she took care of him and brought him to the dinner table one night and fed him along with her husband and her family. And everybody seemed to be enjoying the food, but her father just, he says, "This is tasteless. I don't know how you can enjoy the food. It tastes like nothing to me." And the queen revealed herself as his younger daughter and said, "You see, Father, when there's no salt in the food, it isn't wonderful. You are like the salt in my food, something I didn't ever want to go without."
I've always loved that story. I can never remember it to tell it the way that she does, and it changes every time she tells it, but it's all basically the same moral to it. One of these days I'll have to get her, well, when I'm doing something else, get her to do the stone soup. You can all look up stone soup online, but still, it's a fun little tale too. I'm going to knead the bread. I'm going to, like I said, make it into these little loaves. But for now, I'm going to turn off the camera because this is 10 minutes of boring if I record me kneading the bread. It's winter time, and even in the southwest desert, it's a little chilly. I'm going to raise these in the oven with the light on. Worked really well for the bread yesterday. I'm going to divide the dough here into about 8 pieces to do that with. I'm basically just scoring the bread and then tearing it. I'll make it into the individual loaves in a minute.
Let me help make one.
Okay, go ahead and make one.
Okay, I'll make this one. About what you want it like, right like that. Wait, I'm going to roll it so it gets longer.
It's been about 10 minutes since got done kneading the dough. 20 minutes, I mean. Had to grease the pans. I did some dishes. And it's just boring stuff that you have to do that Didn't think I'd share. Now I'm making these into loaves. They will go in the oven with the light on. Should put it about 85 degrees in there with the light on. Last night I left the dough in for about 2 hours and 20 minutes. And it rose wonderfully. It actually continued to raise even after I put it back in the hot oven. I took it out for about the 10 minutes it took to heat the oven. But it made a beautiful loaf of bread, so I'm going to try the same thing today. I'm not sure what I'm going to cook next. I was going to stay with the whole bread theme for a while, but overdosing on bread, so not going to do that right now at the moment. But going to work on something different. But I definitely wanted to show, after I got the timing and everything figured out on this, how to make it. I'm just going to set these in the oven with the light on in there to let them find some warmth, kind of like a proofing oven. Just a little better than the 71 degrees inside the house. About an hour and 20 minutes. The bread's raising nicely in those little mini pans. Probably going to give it another 40 minutes or so, maybe an hour more, before I take them out and start the oven to bake. These are the mini loaves. I've got the oven preheating. It's at 370 of 375. There, I went 375. You didn't beep at me. There we go. We got the beep. These are going in the oven. Have the timer on these for 20 minutes instead of the 25. I will check them. They may go 25, the same as the bread loaf did, but for now, starting there. There are the mini loaves that I did. Didn't have it on camera because they're a little hot. I'm going to take them off the cookie sheet and put them on the cooling rack by themselves. Well, maybe, well, let me get the tripod. These are hot, hotter than I expected. I thought maybe with the aluminum I could move them without, but they didn't work. Well, that one that fell off came out. I'm going to go ahead and dump these others. Definitely warm. Use something smaller. It's just a homemade cotton dishcloth that I'm using to, instead of a hot pot holder or a hot pad. These are warm. Mom's actually doing some cooking here in the fry pan to the side here. Might have to do that one someday. I really like that recipe that she's doing. She's got it memorized. She had made it so much, and she's able to do it with her vision being not the best. But we will have to see about doing that some other day. I'm going to try to get these bread out of the, these last two out of the loaf pans. I might have to use a knife to go around the edges. We'll have to see on that. I think I will. This one here I just took out, having to use a knife. I don't know why I did coat all these pans. I guess I didn't get quite as much in that one. In these two, left a little bit, but that is tasty warm bread. I'm going to move it away from here because of the heat. I want it to cool better, so I'm going to move it to the other end of the counter, the island with the sink. And we'll move the camera down there too. These are the ones I just did. This was the loaf I did last night. I did put a little bit of butter on this one, and it seems to have darkened it a little bit. I may do a little bit of butter on these, I'm not sure. Well, the loaves did get a little darker and a little shinier. I did put a little bit of butter on them. Not real evenly, it appears. But the important thing was, there was one that was a little bit misshapen, and it got cut. And it got some butter on it. And this one, wonderful sourdough bread. And my favorite piece, the end. I promised Cassie some biscuits when I made this. And this is more of a bread dough than a biscuit dough. So I'm going to give her and her husband a couple of these. I've got another friend that's going to get a couple, and I'm going to eat at least part of this one. Thanks for watching Perhaps Cooking. Feel free to share, give me a thumbs up, or subscribe.